You're listening to the Kobo Writing Life podcast, where we bring you insights and inspiration for growing your self-publishing business. We're your hosts. I'm Tara Kremen, Director of Kobo Writing Life.
And I'm Rachel Wharton, Author Engagement Manager for Kobo Writing Life. On today's episode, Tara and I had the pleasure to chat with Jennifer Probst, a New York Times, USA Today, and Wall Street Journal bestselling author of over 50 books in contemporary romance fiction. Her work has been translated into over a dozen countries. She's sold over 2 million copies and was dubbed a, quote, romance phenom by Kirkus Reviews. Her passions include reading, horse racing, Scrabble, Italian wine and food, shameful reality television, and rescue dogs. And we also touched on her love of Disney and baseball. We had a really lovely conversation. Jennifer is such a unique author in that she's been in this business for so long and is still so curious and learning about everything. So we talked about her long-standing career, a little bit of her advice about how authors can avoid burnout, but mostly about how you can maintain your joy in your writing. I hope that comes across about like the joy that Jennifer brings to her books and her passion in the industry in general. Yeah, I could just keep talking to her all day long. So I hope you enjoy. So excited to be chatting to Jennifer Probst on the episode this week. Jennifer, thank you for joining us.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here and hang with you guys today.
So for listeners that might not be familiar, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes. Let's see. New York Times bestselling author of contemporary romance, women's fiction, and nonfiction for writers. And I think I'm like on my 61st book, which is amazing. I've been in the industry. Well, I've been writing for 35 years. I've been full-time for about 15 years now. And I live in New York in the Hudson Valley, and I have 2 boys in college now. So that's kind of sad. But as people say, oh, great, Jen, you could write more books faster. So yeah, been in the business, I feels like forever, seen a lot of ups and downs. And I tell you, it's not cliche. Every day I still get up and I'm like, I can't believe I get to do this.
I love that. And like, we absolutely are going to dig into your time in the industry, but I want to take it way back to the beginning because your website mentions that you wrote your first love story at the age of 12.
Yes.
And so I want to know, what is it about romance that has always captured your heart?
Well, I always knew I was going to be a writer since I was 7 because for some reason I had this little old Holly Hobby, yes, I'm very old, diary with a little gold lock. And when I went back to read it, of course, it was like, I don't know, crushing on like TV stars and everything. And there was all these entries when I'm a writer one day, when I'm a famous writer one day. I'm like, wow. So I really think I fell in love the minute I heard a story from my mom. But what had happened is, I think it was kind of like right around when I was 12 years old, my dad brought a box. I had read anything that I could get a hold of. And I was way over, like I was reading like adult books at that time. And he came back from the library with this whole box of romance novels. And he's like, here, and I was like, what is this? And there was like beautiful women and horses on the cover. And my mom is like, you can't give her that. And he's like, she's reading everything in sight. Just let her read. I don't think he knew what was in the romance novels. Thank you, Dad. So I was hooked right away. And I knew the minute I started reading romance, it was like my true north. I was like, I am going to write romance for a living. And then when I was 12, I could think going on 13, the only thing back in the day was to be a writer. There was no internet. There was no way to find out how to be a writer. You couldn't research anything. The only thing they said was writers write books. So I was like, okay, so all I have to do is write a book. So I literally sat down. It was this beautiful yellow hardback folder. I filled it with like 300 pages of like lined paper. And I started writing a romance novel. And of course it was like based on me. And of course it was like the tortured nerdy girl in school that got the guy's attention. And that was it. I literally never stopped writing. The only thing that changed was the technology. The first book was longhand. The second was, I think, on like a Brother typewriter. The third was on a processor. And then we got to computers.
And then you never looked back.
Never looked back.
Has the process changed at all? Like, obviously, since you were like such a young child, I assume your process has evolved. But can you talk a little bit about that, about what your process looks like now?
Yeah, I think sometimes when you're young, you have a lot less fear. There's a lot less hangups. You're very raw. And that's why I love my first writings. Like all of those first books was almost like a like an FU to the world. Like, this is how I am and this is how I see it. And I'm not making apologies. And I love that. I love young writers because they're so raw and passionate. I always tell them just to keep writing and don't worry about polishing yet. It's like you need to get like your voice honed. And then what happens is you start writing for publication, and it does change because you start thinking about market and editing, and that kind of like it kind of blurs a little bit of the raw process. And once that first book is sold and you're going for a second, third book, and you're dealing with editors and you're dealing with market things, you're in professional mode. You're like, my books pay my mortgage. And I think that's sometimes the hardest part, because you've really got to balance like where you want to go creatively, where you're going to make money. There's a lot of things going on right now in the industry where people were like, it used to be like write, publish, repeat. And then authors were burning out in huge numbers because they can't do that. So now we're having a pushback to more of like finding your process and balancing it within the thing so you can protect your creativity and go slower. I don't think we need to burn out like that. I don't think that people need that kind of attention span like they're scrolling like they need for books. So it's a whole new way of thinking. So I'm sorry, I could talk about this forever, but it's like over the years, I've just seen so much. And so my thing is like to protect the young voices and don't burn them out so fast, because it's like telling my boys all the time, I'm like, just have your life. You know what I mean? Just enjoy your freaking life and make mistakes and like have adventures. And that's what it's about. Don't try to grow up so fast. Like, just like be where it is, you know?
I like that you still have such a kind of fondness for your first writing, because I feel like some authors are like, I never want to look at that first book. Actually, now I'm such a better writer. Did you put those out into the world at all, or like?
No, there was like probably like the first 6 books were like under the bed. And again, like, you know, I started at 12. So it was like every 2 years I would put a romance book out. And then I went to college, and then I started writing more seriously adult romance to go in for like Harlequin. That was like the big publisher at the time. And then I changed a lot because I needed to morph. Like, I was writing these adult romances, but I wasn't an adult yet. So I also talk about experience. Like, I would write these things like I was like, you know, traveling and having these great affairs, and I wasn't, you know, I was in college. So trying to make that leap, I really came into myself, I think in my early 20s, when I really knew what that was about as I was dating and finding love. And then I just think your experiences kind of like guide you. But like you said, Tara, I think I give myself grace, because what I can't reproduce is the raw, hungry passion. It may not be beautifully written, but it's like dripping with emotion, like you are when you're young, right? Like everything is like do or die, or you're going to die if you're in love for the first time. Like, I love that. You're not going to get that in my work now. I will tap into a lot of motion. And I do love like old teen series and like reality, because they bring that back, that kind of angst and mess of like you're younger. So I'm always trying to tap into that. But I just give myself, I love the journey. I just think every book is different and better with craft wise. Like, I'm much better craft wise, but emotion is just kind of like what you're feeling at the time.
I kind of want to touch on something you said in the first part of the answer that you gave, because you talked about how, you know, when you start publishing the book, you also have editors there, you have publishing, it's your full-time job, and that can create a lot of pressure. So I'm kind of curious, like, how do you keep your creative well filled, and how do you maintain the joy in writing?
Yeah, it's kind of like if I had to focus on one thing, that is my true north, always finding joy, because it's really like a restart every time, whether it's a new book or a new day. It depends on what's going on. I have been with big publishers. I've been dropped by big publishers because of sales. I've been doing my indie books. There's just so much volatility in the market that what I try to do is go back to the work. I always try to bring myself back to the work. That's how I kind of like keep the joy in my life. So I make sure that I'm writing something, even if it's for a market, it's something I'm passionate about. And I'll find that creativity a lot in travel. So I will have an experience and go maybe on a vacation or have an experience out there. And then I'll bring it back and I'll be like, wow, I want to write a series about this because it lights me up. So if I'm writing something that I'm passionate about, that keeps that kind of like line. And then you can kind of like lean into ways to make it more marketable at the time. But I have written books for myself anyway that has nothing to do with the market, and I don't apologize, because the joy of it is the industry is always changing, right? So who knows what's going to come down? Like a market can be hot when 5 years ago it wasn't. So I also always feel that you need to do work for yourself and kind of like keep it in between. Like maybe you're writing a book more for market, right? Because you need to, and your editor's like, I need to do this. But then on your own, you have another thing that you're doing. And I just believe that as long as you keep having a project that lights you up, you will like keep that joy. But guys, it's really a reset. I mean, there are days where it's called couch time, Bravo time. I'm not writing for a few days time. Sometimes you got to be in it also. Like if you're reaching burnout, I think that authors need to be okay with that and be like, I need some time, push out some things, say no. The world is not going to collapse for pushing out a book, canceling a book, do it. That is something that I've learned. I used to think that my entire world would like burn down to the ground if I have to like push out a deadline or say something, and it's not. It's amazing how the world just keeps turning and you show up and you're like, oh my gosh, okay, I'll just restart again.
I think people respond to like you finding joy in the work you're doing. Like I can hear it in your voice now that you're, it's like readers will respond to that, and you're not going to be able to do that if your well's not filled with a little bit of Bravo time.
Yes, exactly. I agree with you. You have to do things that like you really love, like, and that's going to change.
Well, speaking of like bringing joy to your books, earlier this year, you released the second book in the Outer Banks series, The Reluctant Flirt. And this has been described as a terrific contemporary romance with heart, soul, and emotion. So can you tell listeners a little bit about this book and maybe the series?
Yes, I am so passionate about this series. And it's an emotional romantic comedy, and it's about two sisters in the Outer Banks. So Book of the Month came first and Reluctant Flirt was the second, which I didn't even know that I was going to write, because the sister it was supposed to be a one big book deal. Book of the Month is basically about a writer who has a one-hit wonder and cannot write another book that sells. And the problem is that her first book that sold big and was a bestseller and a book club pick was because she had a completely broken heart and her life had been annihilated. So she put all of that mess into the books. So she goes to the Outer Banks to stay with her sister, and she decides she needs to go and have a messy affair and fall in love and get her heart broken so she can write another bestseller. And so you enter my hero, who is running a wild horse tour company to go see the wild horses in Corolla. And his company he inherited from his grandfather, and he is like the heartbreaker of the Outer Banks. Women literally have support groups to get over dating him because he's messed things up. So of course she's like, I'll help your company if you just like have an affair with me for the summer, mess me up, let me write my bestseller. And of course you can see how that goes. So leading into The Reluctant Flirt, which was so interesting, it was supposed to be a one book. I was like, okay, maybe I'll write The Sister next year, 2 years from now. We'll see. But I'm literally writing the book, and this guy comes in, this really hot guy in like a rumpled suit and a leather duffel. And he goes into my hero's thing and he drops his bag and he goes, I just got out of jail. Can I stay at your place for a while? And I was like, who is this guy? And he wrote himself onto the page, this totally dynamic. I did not know his story. And then I realized he had had an affair with the sister 5 years ago. And it was a one night stand and they hadn't known. So my publisher was like, yeah, you got to write the second book like right now. Like, don't even take a breath, just write it. So I loved it. And the book was inspired literally by taking a vacation in the Outer Banks. I took a tour. They'd go take you out in the dunes and you see the wild horses. I love animals. So like seeing them and how special they are running free and how they're protected. And then we went to the little sea turtle things where sea turtles were hatching, and volunteers like watch the nests every single night. And it's this whole big thing. And the guy was kind of hot who was like driving our thing and doing the tour. And the entire book came to me. I was like, done. So I came back and like wrote the 2 books, and it was wild. And it's just very romantic. There's a lot of beach scenery. There's quirky small town. There's a lot of heartbreak and like laugh out loud romance. So it's just been a fan favorite.
I love that. Do you think you're going to keep continuing it, or is that
Yes.
too, okay. It's not too leading a question.
No, it's not. There's one other another secondary character from the first, and he wasn't. That's how they start, right? They're not supposed to be heroes. They're like, let's have some fun with this. But now it looks like there's going to be an age gap romance coming up, and like a makeover romance, and I'm super excited about it. So we're definitely going to have one more in that series.
Okay, I'm so curious about your writing process, though, because it sounds like your characters really influence how the plot goes. So
Yes.
I'm curious, like age-old question, are you a plotter or a pantser? Or a little bit of both?
I'm a total pantser.
Wow.
It has made my life difficult. I've tried my whole life to be somebody else. Like I always wanted to be that really cool girl who wears like the flowy maxi dresses and with the floppy hat and the thing. I was like I want to be that person. And I would buy maxi dresses. Do you know what I mean? And I would never wear them. I'm like, oh my God, they're just not me. So that's how I feel about plottering and pantsing. Like I've always wanted to be a plotter. I've always felt like that was the right way to write a book. I would take plotting workshops and like get the sticky notes and be like, this is going to change my life. And then my muse would literally be like, we're not writing nothing now. Like, you want the sticky notes? You want to, fix these? And so I've learned like, she's messy. She's bitchy. She's like, I've got to follow her. So yes, it's a character usually that starts the entire thing, and then I'll build the plot around the characters. It's usually a setting with characters that kind of like spark. And then I go very deep into the growth arc is the big thing for me too. Like, how does that person change from the first page to the last? That's where everybody signs up. We want growth. We want like the individual characters and the couple to grow. So I make sure that from page 1, if they're both a mess, they're a better mess at the end and they're better together, like that kind of thing. There's no fixing. There's no like, this love fixes you. It makes you better. It makes you like a better mess. If that makes any sense.
No, that makes a ton of sense. And I mean, I think it's interesting that you said that you thought that plotting was the right way to be a writer. But I mean, I would say pantsing is working for you so far. So
it doesn't matter. You have to kind of engage. You have to like love your process, even though I think it's really important though to try different things. I have changed a little. I've had to write chapter 1 through straight. And if I got stuck on a scene, I couldn't go into another one unless it was linear. And with my life getting more crazy, now I'm like, if I have a scene in mind, I'll jump just to get more words in the page, and I'll puzzle piece it together more. So sometimes you've got to try different things. And then if it's not working, it's not working. So I think that's another thing for showing up as a writer. Like, one day is never like another. It's always changing. You'll never get bored.
I love that. I feel that being on this side of the indie publishing industry is that there's always something new happening. And yeah, it always makes it a little bit exciting. Yeah. But can you tell us, you talked a little bit about how you've kind of published in different ways. So how did you start? So you've been writing this whole time, but how did you start in your publishing career? Did you start traditional and move indie, or because you're kind of hybrid now?
Yeah,
can you talk about this?
Definitely all over the place. I love doing everything. I'm kind of like, if there's a new platform, I'm like, I'll try that, or I'll do that, or why not? When I first started, I tried very badly to do traditional. That was really the only thing coming up. And then there were these indie publishers, these small publishers that would do erotic romance. Erotic romance like completely took over. And I was like, wow, I'm really good at writing great sex scenes, like emotional sex scenes, because I love it. I just think it's like very, if you've got a good, powerful connection and story, that just morphs into something else. So literally they would have these book things where they would send it to you in the mail. They weren't even in bookstores. And then it started, and then ebooks started getting really, really big. So that's where I first started publishing like these erotic novellas. But I was always meant to write the big contemporary romance, like that was like where my heart and soul was. I could not get published. It was years. I have like 50 agent rejections. Everybody in New York City publishing rejected me. And then what happened is there was a smaller publisher, big now, Entangled Publishing, who I submit to, and it was beginning, and they loved the book. And this book was The Marriage Bargain. And this book had been in my revision, like it just kept getting rejected, but I had this feeling inside that it was special. I kept saying, if somebody gives it a chance, it can work. So they bought it. And it debuted in 2012 for Valentine's Day. It was one of 4, like it was supposed to be the first kind of ebook, digital Harlequin kind of thing, like in that kind of industry. And then a couple of days later, the book shot up and it was like #1 on B&N. And then it was like #1 on Amazon. And then it went viral and then it was everywhere. And then what happened is traditional publishing came in. All the ones that had rejected the same book was basically like, yeah, can we buy this series now? So I worked with my publisher because it was a smaller publisher at the time. And we made a big deal with Simon and Schuster. So that I was traditional for a long time, but I was writing novellas and self-publishing them because that was like a really rich field. And that way I can kind of experiment with like new adult college romance. I did like superhero romance. I just had fun. I just was like pouring out different things in between. And then I still do the same thing. I self-publish. I'm still with indie publishers and I'm still with traditional. So I love getting out to like in every area that you can.
I like that you're able to kind of cover all aspects, but what do you think are the kind of the challenges about doing that? Do you find it hard to keep track of your books when you're kind of having them in different areas, or when readers are asking you like, when's this one out? And, is it difficult?
Yes. What I did is I had to if people were starting like I would be like, don't be me. I had to kind of catch up to kind of like make it, but now people are much smarter in the industry with branding. A lot of times they'll use a pen name if they're writing one thing and they're going to write fantasy. But like, I just owned, again, my mess. And so I created a website that was basically like, I feel like I can serve different reader populations if you come into me. Like, do you like sweet holiday? I've got something for you. Do you like angsty, messy, like really super steamy, like erotic romance? It's over here. Do you like a nice, funny rom-com set on the beach? It's here. Do you like Italy women's fiction? It's here. Do you want to binge read like on Kobo? Like, you know what I mean? Like that, like just binge read here. Like, I just like to have different facets. So when they come into my world, I can like guide them. And so what I'll do is like, if I know I'm writing a sexy contemporary next, I'll be like, okay, this is this. But if you don't like that, go to here and I'll have you're back in the spring. So that's kind of like how I work it. So I don't ever have to change and write something that I don't want to.
No, I think that makes sense. And I have a question asking for advice. You've mentioned a couple of times you've written a lot of steamy, sexy scenes.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for authors who are writing their first romance and are a little intimidated about writing their first sex scene?
Yeah, I've actually have an article on that. I have a new book that's just coming out. I just did a Kickstarter for it and it's going to be everywhere soon, called Write Free. And there's actually how to write a sex scene kind of like when you're afraid. And there's a lot of authors that just don't feel comfortable because you're connecting on a different thing. And it always goes down to your mind is thinking about your mom reading it, your elderly aunt, like saying, we've got to, disinherit their kids, finding it on the top shelf. It's usually the mind. That's the first thing that kind of like gives you. So you actually have to, I always say that the best thing to do, and it's not that you have to write a sex scene, but even if you're writing a kiss or something, there's some kind of romance in there, you need to be in your body for it, to feel it, to like translate it to the page. So I always tell writers to like challenge themselves, like just like write messy, write longhand if you want, know that nobody is going to see it, like practice getting uncomfortable. It's kind of like, this is going to sound weird, but like when you're Oh God. Like when you're taking your clothes off for the first time with somebody you don't, it's very vulnerable, right? Like it's still, even if you're in love, it's vulnerable. So you're doing it with your characters, but your characters are like part of you, right? So it feels very uncomfortable sometimes to like get into that space. And so I just say like, do like kind of like a breathing meditation and be like, I am safe. Nobody's going to see this. Let me practice. That's how I start it. And then you connect to the emotion of it. And I mean, like sex is part of life, right? So if you can connect to that first emotion, oh my God, that first kiss that you have with the butterflies in your stomach and his head is tilting towards yours and your palms are clammy, like just remember it and kind of immerse yourself in it and then it'll come out.
I think that's great advice, which really leads into my next question, which is like outside of romance, like you've mentioned, you've written some nonfiction books for your fellow writers, and you are obviously passionate about sharing your knowledge, sharing your experience. But what inspired you to share this on a more official writing a book about it level?
I had no plans to really do it. I wrote a lot of blog posts about writing. So my entire life was always like essays about writing and different things. And I published it on my blog, but literally, I'm trying to think of how many years it was. I woke up on New Year's Day. I'll never forget it. And I was on deadline for a romance novel. And there were paragraphs that were torturing me, coming out like of my soul, like long things to teach writers. And I'm like, I don't know what is happening. So I went to my desk and I wrote all day. I just like wrote chapters, things that I've always wanted to tell other writers or just show up for. And then I contacted my agent and I'm like, yeah, so I'm writing this writing book on nonfiction. Can you sell it? And she's like, you're on deadline for a romance novel. What are you doing? And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm telling you, this needs to be published. I don't know why. Like read some chapters. So I know, my poor agent at the time was like, oh, okay, sure, And then she came back to me, I think 2 weeks later, and she goes, what is this? It's gold. It's brilliant. What am I going to do with you? Okay, get me a proposal. And so what I find a very full circle moment for me, which gets me very emotional each time, is when I was young and there was nothing to teach you about writing. There was one thing out there and it was called Writer's Digest. And I would go to the library and I would borrow the magazines and I would look for like agents through there. And that was all we had before internet. And Writer's Digest literally pitched and bought the book. And that is such a full circle moment because I used to clutch those magazines and be like, they know so much and they're real writers. And I was one of them. The book was called Write Naked. That started everything. Right before it got published, I had a panic attack in my kitchen. And I told my husband, everybody's going to know I'm not fabulous. They're going to know I'm a walking issue rate. Like I'm out there so naked and it was so scary. And I was inundated with writers who thanked me, who said, I don't feel alone anymore, who said, I want to start writing again. And so every 2 years, like the fountain spurts up or 3 years, and I need to write a writing book about the new things that I've learned, like for the market and stuff. So right now, this is my 4th one that's just coming out this year.
And you are fabulous.
Thank you, darling.
Oh, I love that. Well, speaking of you being fabulous, you've spoken at writing conferences as well. And I loved your keynote at Romance Author Mastermind last year. I thought it was just so moving and special. So I'm kind of curious, if you have, what do you think makes a good keynote? And what is one piece of advice that you would give an aspiring romance writer?
Yeah. Well, for a keynote, I think they always say, if you're a writer, I think the great keynotes start with story, which means this happened to me, or I was facing this obstacle, or really being personal and authentic. I know we throw authenticity around, but it really is, it's a keyword and not a cliche if you use it correctly, which is really kind of mining pieces of your life. Because your story, your life can't happen for somebody else, and your perspective in your life is a gift because nobody else has that perspective. So if you do a keynote, it's kind of I think being really vulnerable and sharing things that feel really scary, that's where you need to start. If you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm saying this out loud, it's probably a great way to start. So I try to really push myself because that's what I tell writers to do. So I do that myself. So like the big one in RAM was failing because I felt like a failure most of the time. I failed spectacularly, and just kind of like really digging in deep to, nobody talks about failure. Everybody talks about there's big 6-figure thing or this or whatever. So really talking about that connects people. And then, I just say with new writers, it's the same thing. The first thing is when you're starting is just write a lot, find your process and find your voice, because that's what I did. You don't have to be in a race for that 1 year to get a book, on Kobo right away. Don't like take some time and find yourself and find your story and like have some fun with it. Not that authors who have said, hey, in 1 year, I'm going to write a book, I'm going to learn. If that's your thing too, then go for it. I just think that there's a lot of pressure. And I think that writing should be a little bit of a journey before you get to I want this to pay the bills, if that makes sense. Like, I think it's nice to have that build up and have it more for you, because then when you're doing it to pay the bills, you've built your foundation. You have to build a foundation. That's probably number one. And also freaking never quit, because everybody in the creative journey, they're like, oh my God, you're not going to make money. You're going to be a starving artist. How sweet are you? How cute are you? It's such a great hobby. And then God forbid, if you're writing romance, how is it writing porn? How is it writing? Like, it's awful out there. So just go back to your stuff. Like, nobody knows you. It's a beautiful career and it's worthy of so much respect. And it's like $1 billion industry. Hello, for a reason. So yeah, that's my platform. Sorry guys. Like, gets me so mad when people say that. And I want to show them I'm like, yeah, I made more money than you did, like.
I love that so much. And it's great advice, especially it's your journey. Not everybody's publishing journey is going to be the same. Milestones are going to look different, but keeping the work for yourself, I think that is such an important thing.
Yes, exactly.
One other important thing, just segueing myself into my next question, that we hear a lot from writers is the importance of a community and a community of writers. Writing a book can be a very solo endeavor. So I'm curious how you have built up your own community of writers and why it's so important to you.
Yeah, that's such a great question, because again, it was so hard when I was young. You didn't get to contact a writer. Now you can slide right into a DM and be like, hey girl, I read your book and it's 5 stars. Like, it's amazing. But I think building your community is like writing a book. You want to do it carefully. And you want to do it again, authentically. So I think there's so many places to do that. There's social media, there's Facebook groups, there's writing organizations. It depends on what type of writers you want to meet. I am a big one where I think the most important thing that writers can do is go to an in-person conference. It is the most uncomfortable thing. I can go to a conference. I think I went to a conference, I think it was 2 years ago, and I was still I had a nervous stomach. I was still sick to my stomach. I was like, what if I don't know anybody at lunch? Or I thought so-and-so was coming. You're never out of that kindergartner thing. But Tara, I remember seeing you and being like, Tara, once you connect with people, you're on a different level because you know them and you've had a conversation with them. And it's so different than seeing them on a screen or whatever. So we're still in the time where real relationships will overlay just the social media relationship. So I would say, get out of your comfort zone, save the money for a long time, take that conference, take that author's conference, whatever fits with you, and meet new writers and start having your group. And then a lot of people meet online. And that would mean if you're in a community, comment, a lot of times writers are very shy. Even making a comment is very brave, or reaching out to somebody. And I think it's a slow build because you want to know who your people are, and you make friendships by layers, by trust. And you find out, I can trust this person, or this is my brainstorming person, or this person I wouldn't trust with this, but yeah, we can swap newsletters. That's cool, because there's different, in your life, right? You have your close inner circle, then you have your casual acquaintances. It's the same thing with the author world. You can can have a lot of people who are close and you can swap like promo opportunities and anthologies. And then you have your people where if you had a bad review, you call them and you go, do I go to bed? Do I eat Ben and Jerry's? You know what I mean? Like, so kind of like sort that out and take your time with it.
Nice. I think that's great. But on the flip side, I'm kind of curious about how do you stay in touch with like a community of readers? Because you want to build a community, but you don't necessarily want to be calling them up about Ben and Jerry's at midnight. How do you maintain that like nice community?
No, that's, I think, a work in progress. I used to have a very thriving Facebook group on the Probst Posse, but what had happened is I started moving away from social media. There were other things going on. I did not, you have to water your communities, and I did not water it right. And then it just kind of like everybody is kind of splintered. So now I'm building it via subscriptions. I have free subscriptions and I have paid subscriptions. And I'm on a place called Ream, and that is where people can pay me or follow me. And I do blog posts. I have a writers group where we do masterminds every month. They get book boxes, and I can kind of be there for them. I can continue to write chapters and like share that with my readers. I'm also on Substack. That's a place that I curate a lot of writing things and thing for me where I can kind of experiment, and that's paid and free. And then I'm on all the social media, and I always comment, but I find like being behind the curtain now works a little best for me with the way social media is out there. I'm just like not on it in the capacity. I don't feel as safe like engaging with it there. So I kind of like having a little space, like come into my world and I will be with you. And then if you're out there, I'll comment. I do videos of my books. I do plenty of things, but if that makes sense, it's like more on the outside. Yeah. So I think that's how it's shaping up. But the fandom is like really big right now. My newsletter is like my holy grail. That's where I can kind of show up once a week, give them something behind the curtain, the new releases, some free stuff. So I think writers nowadays have to find where they're comfortable and kind of water that ground. And I do think it takes some time. I don't think anybody can expect, unless you're Elizabeth Gilbert or somebody like super fab or, you know, to just say, be like, here I am, and then get thousands of newsletter subscribers. So don't go into it, right? Like thinking you're gonna just go into it thinking I'm gonna start from the bottom.
Yeah, I think she just like sold out a huge space in Toronto on like a speaking tour in the last month or something. It's
crazy
wild.
In a good way. I know. I still have her memoir like ready to, yeah. So yeah, or Emily Henry or any of those, like they'll go like that, you know. But most of us are like in the mid sphere and we'll build.
You touched a little bit on social media and kind of that side of your marketing strategy. And I'd love to dig a little bit more into it, especially because like you graduated university with a business degree and then also a master's in English Lit, which kind of, especially when you're looking at the indie publishing world, are like both sides of indie publishing. So I'm curious kind of how your background has impacted how you approach your publishing career and what your marketing strategy kind of looks like.
Yeah, that's such a great question. I am so happy for my business background. I worked in business full time my whole life. Like I was in college, I was in insurance. I think the most important thing that a business degree and business daytime jobs helped was dealing with people. I mean, when I was an insurance agent for a decade, my phone rang all day. And every time I lifted the phone, I knew people were yelling at me because who loves insurance? Nobody. And I had to walk them through getting them to like me, getting them to be like, I want to help you. So all of those really hard jobs, whatever industry you're in, you can bring what it is, because this is unfortunately not about writing anymore. Writing is one side and business is the other, because the problem is you can write the great book, but if there's millions dropping every day, who's going to read it? Once you exhaust your small readership of friends and family and maybe like core readers, how are you going to get it out? So I've built a lot of different platforms like funneling in readers, and social media is one of them. But I also can't take all of the time being on all of the places. You need to balance like the writing and your business. I like to have separate times, like there's a different brain when I'm doing marketing or graphics or one-line hooks. And then there's this other brain when I'm like brainstorming or like putting books together or edits or like getting something ready. And then there's another brain when you're doing spreadsheets and you're looking at algorithms for Facebook ads. Now, when I started out, I was doing it all on my own. So it was DIY. I did my own website. I did my own blogs. I did my own graphics. And the thing is, you can learn. If you don't have a budget, there are so many free things now and you can learn. So that's how I started. And then when the money started going, I invested in help. So right now I have a part-time assistant. I hire somebody to do my TikTok. I do not want to do TikTok. I took a course. I can do it. You can do anything that you want, even if you don't like it. I always advise go in deep, try it. Like I'll take a course. I'll spend a month going in deep. I came out of it and I'm like, nope, not for me, not going to do it. But I tried it. It's not like I can't do it. Anybody can do anything. So it's like, don't be afraid of it, but like figure it out. So I farmed that out. My assistant does like my videos and I'll come in and out on Instagram and like Facebook or whatever. I like to do subscription stuff. I like to do articles and build kind of like that way. I like to do content, bonus chapters, deleted scenes, playlists. I feed my audience kind of like that way. So I think you need to know your strengths. So I do have help. My TikTok person, my admin does like a whole bunch of stuff. And then I just hired somebody to do like one ad for me to like, because there's so much time to tweak. Is this ad working? Is this ad? But guys, I took Facebook courses out the gazoo and they were all good. They're all good. It's just like, what is your brain? Like I take one, I'm like, I felt like an idiot, but I'm like, I don't understand. So I take a second one and maybe that one hit me better. So I'm just a big one for try stuff yourself. And if you can't do it, see where you can farm out. Did that answer your question enough? Okay. Cause I go on.
No, that's great. It sounds like, I love that you have a real curiosity for learning about this business. And, I feel like that could go the other way where it's kind of like, could lead you to feel jaded because there's so many things to learn, but you seem to be like invigorated by like learning the new things.
Yeah, I try. It's like a perspective. Because I do. I'm overwhelmed too. I get in the weeds too. Like you don't know how many times like I will see something that I'm not doing and there's a million things and I get so depressed and I go, oh my God, if I could do that, I know I could reach more readers, but why can't I do that? Because I can't right now. Like this quarter, maybe I'll like focus on this. And I also love my freaking life. Like I love my family, my dogs. I love to travel. Like I want a life. I don't want to be working 7 days a week or whatever. I wouldn't do well with that. So you have to keep that into balance.
Well, and I think this all ties back into what you were talking about off the top of the podcast, which is avoiding burnout and knowing, like being curious and trying everything and then understanding what fits into your strengths, what fits into your life. I think that's really important.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't you wish, guys, that we could be like, I have wished so many times, kind of feel like a decade ago, maybe there was the secret sauce, like, do this if you do A, B, C, and D. But you should see when I'm teaching or writing books, like I'm like, oh, I can't tell them to do B because some people like D. Like it's so much harder to teach when you want to embrace everybody and their process. So you have to kind of like, just think kind of like outside the box and try to make everybody feel like what they do is important. You just have to find your own way.
Yeah, I know. I often wish that when people are kind of asking about, how do I build my sales on Kobo? Like, I wish there was one thing I could tell you. Unfortunately, there's all of these things that, and it's so unique to the genre, to the thing that you're writing. But yeah, I know it would make all of our lives so much easier if I could just be like, all you got to do is this.
Yes, let me give you that PDF and then I'll see you on Kobo and you'll be number one. Wouldn't that be awesome for everybody?
I would love it. No. So I wanted to ask you, as somebody that's been in this industry and seen like all of the changes, and as you're so kind of keeping up with what's going on and so active in trying stuff, what do you think's coming next? What do you think is the next big thing in indie publishing?
What a great question. Well, I mean, AI is pretty much like everywhere. So there's going to be more AI probably. with translations and audio. I think that there's going to be a pushback and somewhere we're balancing. That's a real hard one because there's a lot of writers that want to use narrators. They are passionate about it, but they're not getting their books in audio because it's an investment. And there's ways to do that, but I think that's still going to be coming in, and people are going to try to balance like what feels right, where can they end up in the scale. So I think that's definitely coming in. I have seen tons and tons of media. I think media is still going in they just did a big thing on Kickstarter with puzzles for romance novels. Marianne, it's about like a huge, so I think that authors thinking outside the box and leaning into the uniqueness and being like, hell yeah, I want to do this weird thing or whatever. I think people are showing up for that a little bit more. So I think the industry is going to have maybe a little tangent into niches, which is super fun for people. I think subscriptions are still going to go big because writers need to feel safe. And I think that they're going to start spoiling their readers more. The fandom is going to be maybe less public and more smaller, but like, I'm going to do this for you and that for you. And there's going to be like deeper relationships. I have no idea about cover trends or genre trends because that's always shifting. I think we just got to be open for anything. But I also think when they were saying, oh, paranormal is dead or Western is dead, they're never dead. You can always sell into your niche. It's about finding your reader. So I'm not a big one on, chase that trend or whatever. I think you can create any trend that you want. And I think the biggest thing is to be, like you said, be curious, be open. You don't have to jump on everything right away, but also don't say, I would never do that. That's not for me. I can't do that. Like, give yourself a little wiggle room to try it. Because once you try it, then you can kind of like scratch it off the list, right? And be like, I'm so glad I tried this. I know that's not for me. So I think kind of like looking at more of like a little, it's kind of cool. It's like a cafeteria of marketing and PR and writing. And you're like, I'll take a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And I don't like that. I'm giving that back. I'm going to hire somebody for that. I think that's a more fun way to think of our career, or we'd all be rocking in a corner crying if I didn't think of it like that, because it's like overwhelming.
Well, speaking of leaning into authors' personalities and the things that authors love, this is the part of the podcast where I take us off topic, because in your unofficial bio, you mentioned that you can't resist to talk about anything Disney.
Yes.
And as a fellow fan, just very low-key fan, yes, I'm curious if Disney stories have inspired you as a writer.
Yes. There was a book called All Roads Lead to You. And I'm a huge horse racing fan. I'm a huge rescue animal fan. I put rescue animals in everything, and actually in all of my books. So when I was writing this book, it was the third one in a series, and my editor was like, when you get to the third one in the series, you can kind of like, yeah, it's going to be about this. So like, okay, go. So I'm writing the series, and they're on this rescue farm. And there's this broken horse that they're training to get to the Triple Crown and like do all the things that I love. And on the rescue farm, there's tons of rescue animals, and there's a rescue Polish chicken, like crazy tail feathers. And I named him Hey Hey. And he's mean, and he was mean to the heroine, and they had this love-hate relationship. And then they have this big love relationship. And then there was a broken, disabled goat called Captain Hoof from Captain Hook. And there was all these other dogs named from every Disney thing. So at the end of the book, I called my friend and I said, I am so screwed. I said, I wrote a Disney pseudo book that I don't even know what the romance is. It's about these animals all everywhere from Disney. And the couple, they watch Disney movies together. Like that was like my Disney series, like my whole love for Disney. And she said, are you happy? And did it make you happy? I'm like, yeah. And she goes, then just own it. And my editor came back and said, well, there are a lot of animals, and I guess you need to love animals, but yeah, okay. And to me, it's still my niche book. People still ask me about Hey Hey. I name all of my crazy rescue animals over. I have a very ugly like pug named Doug who scares people. He's so ugly and he's got teeth like crooked and stuff like. So I have fun with that. That is how Disney shows up in my books, with all of my fun animal stories.
I love that so much. So much.
Is there a Donald? Donald Duck is Rachel's favorite. So do you have a Donald?
I do not have a duck yet. Now that's got to be coming because my son is major Donald Duck energy vibes. He is all the way. He loves it. And I think he has a shirt, the original Angry Bird. Like he wears that to Disney all the time. He loves it.
I have that exact hoodie.
You do.
That
I
has
love
the
it.
original Angry Bird.
And he had a Donald Duck butt hat. It was his tail feathers.
I have
and
that
he
too.
wore it. Oh my God. He's like 20 years old now. If it still fit him, he would wear it. He's like, Donald's the man.
Donald is the best. He's angry all the time.
Well, I love that I've connected you two over Disney, and now you're going to be mortal enemies because I want to ask you about the Yankees.
Oh gosh.
And I'm a Blue Jays fan.
Okay. Well, it doesn't matter. My husband is a Yankees fan and I'm a New York Mets fan. Like,
oh, thank God.
Yes.
Okay. So your husband and I are mortal enemies.
Yes, exactly. I am kind of like, this is me. I love every single team except the Yankees. So I'll root Red Sox. I'll root anybody who is like playing. You got it. As long as, because that's just how I roll. And unfortunately, there's a lot of readers who probably like, check mark, not going to read Jen, but that's okay. That's okay. I own that too.
It's all right. We can just go for the Blue Jays then. So this will come out in a couple of weeks where we can presume they've won everything.
Don't jinx it, Tara.
I know. We can't do that because there's a lot of, now that the Mets are out of it, I'm like, okay, let's go.
Let's go Blue Jays.
Yeah, exactly.
I know. I remember when I met you in Ram and you were so stressed out about the Mets.
My God, Tara, like I was like, I got to get to my room and there's this conference going on. I have to see the Mets. You're right. I just like dumped on you.
I remember they lost a game and you're like, it's my fault. I'm not there.
Yes, it was. I was texting my girlfriend and I was like, I'm at this conference. I paid too much to dip out. I've got to be here. You know, it was so funny.
Love it. Well, what are you working on now coming up next? I feel like we could keep chatting, but I'll let you go back to your busy career.
Yeah.
What are you working on?
Doing right now? I just finished the third book in this like totally is something I've never done before. It's like a Gossip Girl. It's about a bunch of characters who is working at this like really hot restaurant in New York City and they're a mess. It's like a messy, emotional, like somebody's dating somebody but loves the best friend of them. We're like enemies to lovers. There's like love triangles, there's fights, there's like all of this kind of stuff. I literally just wanted to write my own Gossip Girl, Dawson's Creek, Vanderpump Rules. So I did it. So there's 3 books and those are kind of like out and they kind of like end on cliffhanger. So I just keep writing that. So that's really exciting to do. And then we were talking before, I'm working on a book about set in Hawaii. And she was a competitor surfer that got hurt and she lost her dad. And this young girl, she doesn't teach surfing or any, but this young girl is having issues and she's got a single dad who's just there for the summer and she teaches her surfing. So I'm kind of dipping into a lot of, and there's a rescue rabbit in that one called Spook. And so, gosh, I'm having a lot of fun with rabbits right now. So I'm like all into rabbits. So that's next. And Lord, ladies, I think I have 2 other proposals on the line about one really sexy, really interesting one about she writes love letters. She's like a ghostwriter for love letters for people who are breaking up or want to seduce other people. She's like incognito and she runs this wedding stationery shop, but she's like known as this like secret ghostwriter for love letters because who wants to swipe left all the time, like, or right or whatever, like you want love letters. So yeah, so they're not there yet, but this is all the stuff that I'm seeding for next year that will come.
So just a couple of irons in the fire.
Yeah, just a couple.
Super chill.
Super chill.
And where can our listeners find you and your super chill release schedule online?
Go straight to my website. It's such a great website. I just filled it with all sorts of fun and bonuses and content. And there's writers. It's jenniferprobst.com. You can find me everywhere. And then I'm everywhere on social media. And I tell everybody, if you drop me an email, a message, I'm the one reading it. I don't have my assistant do any of that. I love being in contact with all of my readers. So go there. And then if you sign up, of course, to my newsletter, you get a free book. So that's super cool.
Nice. Thanks so much for coming and chatting with us. I really appreciate it. Always a pleasure to catch up.
It wasn't even like a podcast. It was just like us like drinking coffee and hanging out in our homes. It was so much fun.
Nice. Well, I hope it listens like that.
No, it will.
Thank you for listening to the Kobo Writing Life podcast. If you're interested in Jennifer's books, we'll include links in our show notes. And if you're enjoying this podcast, please be sure to rate, review, and subscribe. And if you are looking for even more tips on growing your self-publishing business, you can find us on socials. We are at Kobo Writing Life on Facebook, Blue Sky, Instagram, and Threads.
This episode was hosted by Tara Kremen and Rachel Wharton, with production by Terrence Abrahams. Editing is provided by Kelly Robotham. Our theme music is composed by Tearjerker, and a huge thanks to Jennifer for being our guest. If you're ready to start your publishing journey, sign up today at kobo.com/writinglife. Until next time, happy writing.